With furniture prices soaring through the roof, is it cheaper to build or to buy? Let's find out. Today's project is going to be something I don't normally do. I'm going to make some furniture out of simple pine 2x4s. It began with my wife asking me if she could buy a piece of furniture, and I was like, what? I'm a furniture maker, are you kidding me? Here's the piece that she wanted from the store, and the size we needed, it was going to cost over $4,000. So I got busy making it. With these pine 2x4s, it was going to be a simple process. I already had a technique and plan in mind, and the wood itself only cost me about $79. After laminating some of the boards to give a thicker stock, I then ran it through the table saw to cut it to length, and tossed the piece over my shoulder for good luck. The table is going to be roughly 10 feet long by 18 inches deep and 36 inches tall, so it's going to need some strength and support, so I added these cross-lap joints to help increase that. Added a little glue, and then went together like this. This piece is going to be strong, and there won't be any sagging. Then I added some support pieces, and then made some holes to add the self-levelers at the bottom. After all, when a floor is ever level? Never, right? So these threaded inserts to help level the feet off really helps. Let's dry fit some of these pieces to see how it's going to look. It's square, and I like the look of it, but let's add a few pocket holes and get busy assembling this. Now, something I did off camera was I textured all the boards to add that extra age effect, like old wood, not this fresh new lumber, and you'll see in some close-ups of that wood weathered. Sorry I skipped that footage. I wish I would have remembered. Now, my only problem with this build is I'm hoping I can pull off the finish to make it look aged and rustic, but yet still like a nice piece of furniture and not like a stained 2x4. So I came up with this technique in my mind. It was going to take a few steps, but before we get to that, let's glue up the top. We're going to laminate these boards, edge gluing them. No dominoes or dowels were needed because it doesn't actually provide strength, it's just for alignment. And since I got these boards nice and square, this was easy. We're going to clamp it down and let it sit for a few hours. And then we're going to move on to staining the table while this dries. Let's get that technique going. And like I said, I wanted to start out with a couple of steps. So we're going to start out with a dark brown. And this is going to give me like a shadow after effect, as I'm going to come back over this in a little while with paint. So far, on the close-up portion of this, I'm really digging how the texture came out of the wood. So it doesn't appear like a brand new 2x4 or 2x6 any longer. So I like that. And and it skipped that process of somebody taking a hammer and dinging it up and putting screws and stuff. I didn't want that. I wanted something to resemble an old weathered board on like a beach boardwalk that just gets weathered nicely. So that's kind of how these came out. Let's pull that top out and run it through the planer. This thing is getting nice and smooth, but I have to say I really maxed out my garage with this 10-foot top. After running this through the planer on several passes for each side, I was able to get to the proper dimensions. Then I needed to do some offcuts on either end. After all, I wanted it 10 feet. And I'm a sucker for precise measurements. Now using my router faceplate extension tool, for that support and balance, it helped make routing this really easy. Then I moved on to adding some paint. This is the first coat. I came back with 2 coats. I really like the weathered effect that it's coming out, and I think I chose the perfect paint texture. The close-up image of this is starting to show, but of course this is the first coat. The second coat ends up looking way better. But in the end, it came out nice. And these Z-clips are going to be added for seasonal wood movement. And here it is, check it out. This thing came out great. And you would have never thought I made this from 2x4s or 2x6s in my driveway. And the finish? It looks like an old world weathered piece. It's awesome. I love it, and more importantly, my wife loves it. The hardware I got off of Amazon, and I think it complements this table. And these pictures, I DIY'd those myself as well. This piece came out great, and since the wood only cost me around $79, I think this was a win. What do you think?